I know what you're thinking. What in the gosh darn is Bits and Bombs? Bits and Bombs is a podcast deep diving into what it takes to do stand-up from a different comedian every episode. Follow new open micer Peter Doms in his journey to be an okay comic.
I, as an adult, recently was diagnosed with ADHD. TikTok told me. It was like, you have ADHD. These are the symptoms. It was a psychiatrist. He told me. When he told me, he sort of said, like, I went there for that, I got a referral and all that sort of stuff. And he was like, yeah, that sort of checks out, like, after all this stuff, it sounds like you do have ADHD. Have you also considered, though, that you have OCD as well? And I hadn't, but now I will every single day. Obsessively. Very weird mix though, right? Like ADHD and OCD. Because often, I'm highly concerned that I've left my oven on. Probably fucking have. Absolutely reasonable concern. That'll be the ADHD. Several times since writing that joke, I've left my oven on. Turn it off, I'm like, good one, that's a funny joke.
Have you done many podcasts and stuff?
I used to run a podcast for like a year and a half.
Yeah.
We had like a weekly thing. We did like 60 episodes.
Oh, I think you've told me about this.
It
Yeah.
was before comedy, funnily enough. So it was
Yeah.
like, I mean, it was sort of a comedy podcast, but like political.
Yeah.
It's an interesting one.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, dropped it. Over time, but I'll probably end up doing one again. But yeah, it's been a while though. I've not done a podcast for a while.
How long did that podcast go for?
About a year and a half overall. Mm-hmm. So like 60 something episodes, I think we did. And we pretty much consistently did weekly episodes, but it's also like so much work editing and all that sort of stuff. And they were like 2-3 hours long sometimes. So it's like, and I'd like, organize all the like pops and stuff. I'd have to like sift through them. Mm-hmm. The guy I did the podcast with had Tourette's as well. Mm-hmm. So he'd often like tick, and it would change depending on like, I guess like tics change over time, mm-hmm. but he would, sometimes his tics would be vocal. And so I'd have to find them in the thing and remove some of them because it would just be like bang, like just into the mic. But so yeah, it was just like a hell of a lot of work, but I'd do it again though. Now that I know comedy better and like the mm-hmm. scene better, I think it's like, more achievable to get it out there.
Yeah. Do you have any ideas on like what your next podcast will be about?
I honestly don't. I think I like to find out about people. So mm-hmm. like probably like, interesting people who have either like a skill set or experience with something, like talking about it in depth without mm-hmm. kind of like, I feel like most news things, for example, have like a focus on, sound bites and small bits of information that you can condense into like a minute or two. If they get a professional on to talk about it, mm-hmm. it's like I'd prefer to have a professional come in and talk for 2 hours about the thing that they know mm-hmm. that's also like in the news or whatever. But yeah, I don't know how I'd work it out yet, to be honest.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's more of a thought. But I like the casual approach to podcasting too. Like it's good to have, I guess like a key idea of what you want to do. Like this, for example, is mm-hmm. obviously going through people's like comedy background and how they do it and that sort of thing, which is good to have like an aim. And I kind of want an aim as well, but with that casual format like this kind of thing. But work in progress. So much to focus on at the moment, but it's coming.
Mm-hmm. All right, Zak Hadfield.
Peter Doms.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be here. As
it's good
we say as comedians.
Yeah. When was your first gig?
My first gig would have been. Technically, actually, my first gig ever was a talent show in grade 6. We went away for like grade 6 camp and they did like a talent show night, and me and my friend did a 5-minute comedy set. Mm-hmm. But it was just all Peter Kay jokes, which is like a big British comedian at the time. So I was just ripping someone else off basically for my first set as a 10-year-old.
So you and your friend did it together, or he did a separate set?
We did it together, and we wrote out the jokes that we were going to do, and it'd be like, I'll do this one, you do that one, I'll do this one.
Take turns.
It was surprisingly good. I think we won the talent competition. Mm-hmm. Although on retrospect, some of the jokes I didn't get at the time.
Yep.
And now as an adult, I'm like, that was a dirtier joke than I knew as a 10-year-old. I just thought the delivery of it was funny and stuff. Bear in mind, I was 10. One of the jokes we told was a Peter Kay joke where there used to be these signs in the London Underground that would say, please stay away from the platform. Don't approach too close to the platform as you might get sucked off. and he'd be like, bring the train on, I'm ready. I'm ready to get sucked off. And we were joking, but I thought it was like maybe a suicide joke, which is also dark for a 10-year-old to think, but maybe it's something to do with the train. And it's like, I didn't realize that was a joke about getting head, Yeah. On retrospect, my teachers would have been like, these kids are...
These are wild.
Yeah, but we won, I guess. But to answer your question properly, I took a 16 or 17-year hiatus from then. And my first show was a Brat Pack show, the ones that Good Chat run. I think it was the first Brat Pack, and it would have been October 2019.
Yep. So
yeah, just over 4 years ago now, would have been the first one. And that was like, obviously it's a competition. I just kind of decided I wanted to do comedy. I hadn't done it I've been meaning to do it for years and then just never did. And then I was single, newly single. I'd been in like a 7-year relationship that had just ended. And I was like, that whole time to do something for me. So then I just signed up to Brat Pack, and I did well. I got through the first heat, and then came back for the second one, and I got crowd favorite on that one with Francesca Rossi Price, who I don't know if she's been in the scene at the same time as you. I think she's in another state now, but we both won crowd favorite, and then Joe Gowder won the judges prize.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. And that was kind of how I think that's kind of how Joe started really moving up the ranks, was after winning that competition. But there's still some people in that scene from then. It was a really interesting group of people, because it was me, Finbar, Chloe Madron as well. I always call it the room runners year of Brat Pack, because all of us went on to run a room at some point or another. But then Henry Shearman was in that one, Bryce Lancaster. He's not really doing comedy at the moment, but yeah, it was a lot of people that are still in it, which is cool.
Yeah.
And then after doing well there, they booked me on a Wednesday or something, and then I just started kind of learning more about other open mics in the scene and signing up, really. A fun time.
And so you went on to run a room. How long was it before you started going to room running?
It wasn't that long afterwards, actually. Funnily enough, I started a comedy room in the entertainment business in March 2020. So it was literally as COVID fully kicked off, and they were stopping people from going out and doing lockdowns and stuff. And I ran a room at a place called Back Dock Arts, which is in the Valley.
Yeah.
They'd just opened up and were kind of getting traction with shows, and I'd sort of talked to them for a bit and ran I think it started as a monthly Monday, but within 3 months it became weekly, something like that. And then, that's kind of how it started. But it was a weird time because there was a lockdown after maybe the first show, and we'd sort of sold a fair few tickets, and then had to tell everyone to start sort of sitting apart from each other, which is always real weird as a crowd to have a space between every person. But then, I think we shut down for a month or however long Queensland was down for, and then came back sort of weekly. But that definitely helped me get gigs at the time as well, because I emceed those shows to begin with. And that kind of gave me stage time, really, to kind of build and then get in front of other comics and things like that. So, And then it started from there. So moved from Back Dock to Good Chat as well for a while. So we had to change the show a bit, because it was a Monday, just a Monday weekly show as a normal sort of. It was curated, but it had 8 comics. It was a Good Chat Wednesday sort of show. That was kind of what we did at Back Dock. But then because I was moving into Good Chat, I couldn't just do the same type of show that they're doing, because they'd just run that, And so I did I did 4 new comics and 4 established comics. So like the first half of the show would be 4 established comics, and then the second half of the show would be all new comics giving it a go. And then it was like a competition just between the 4.
Yeah.
And then they'd basically win a spot on Good Chat if they were good and that sort of thing, and built from there. I think we did like maybe 5 or 6 months at Good Chat.
Yeah, there's a few people I know that started through like it was under Crack Up still at Good Chat?
Yeah.
Because that's what you call your rooms, hey, Crack Up.
Yeah, Crack Up comedy, but Crack Up shows were the thing, and then it was called Crack Up at Good Chat at the time. So it was kind of like we'd both partnered together for it at the time. Yeah.
Wasn't there a few people like I think B. Cordes, Meg Yeager, and Ben Hunter and stuff? They all started through Crack Up too, right?
Yeah, that show in particular. Ben won his first, like he did that competition and won. I think Meg did the same thing. Alexandra Hudson also came through that. I think she'd done a gig or 2 in like Tweed Heads, but it was her first like Brisbane show.
Yeah.
And she won. And then I think she won. I had like a battle of the winners as well, like a show of all the winners competing, and I think she won that as well.
Oh, wow.
And then obviously went and did Raw and won that.
Won the whole thing,
yeah. She had a very good trajectory, as did Meg. I mean, Meg won Raw as well, which is cool. Like
and Ben is Comedy Zone.
Comedy Zone, and I suppose he's like under Good Chat now. So yeah, there was a few that came up through there. Kiara Steggett was, she started at that show as well. There are a number of comics that we had through, but those are certainly the ones that sort of are now doing quite well.
Yeah.
Which is cool. But that was, it's sort of weird, like our scene really popped off at that time, which is bizarre because it was just as like, the entertainment industry was kind of on its knees. Like live entertainment was not the go. Like you'd struggle to run things, but because of how the state laws differed from each other in each state, Brisbane was the most open. So like all of these state comics, like interstate comics, couldn't do gigs in Sydney and Melbourne, and so they all kind of came to Brisbane for like weeks at a time. And so it kind of grew the scene a bit because then people were seeing how these like pros basically are doing comedy.
Yeah.
And then, it kind of like popped off at the time. And then with that particular show, I think it just became, because Good Chat was sort of getting the growth that they now have, and it's just an established, it's its own room. Like it used to be part of Fritzenberger and a show that they ran at Fritzenberger, but now it's like, it's like its own thing, right?
Its own like club.
Yeah. And because they were doing that, it just didn't make sense for them to have me host my brand at their room, which is absolutely reasonable. It actually happened like way later than I thought. I was like, Jake's going to eventually be like, this isn't something that I should have you run here. And so we parted ways, but very amicably, Jake actually got me in touch with Hotel West End then, because they'd been speaking with them about running a room there. And he was like, look, we're not going to run that room anymore, but I've given your details. He said you can give him a call if you want to set up a room there. So he didn't leave me like empty-handed or anything like that. He was like very nice about it all. And I started running Crack Up at West End as well. And I had a show at the Palace as well at one point. So I was maybe running like 3 shows a fortnight for a while, like 6 months or so. But it's just so much work running a room. I'll bring it back at some point. I just have to figure out the next sort of step, really.
Yep. No worries. Do you have any, like, I guess with the next step, do you have anything in mind? Like in terms of venues, or you just
sort
like...
of.
Yeah.
There's a few venues that I'm looking into at the moment. I won't give anything away, but they're more like central sort of locations and stuff like that. So yeah, there's definitely a few ideas. I think it's just a matter of actually talking to them as well and seeing what days work. Like my job's very like full on. Like my normal job is like recruitment, so it's just like a very busy sort of role. So I never know when I'm going to leave work for the day. So like it has to be kind of like Fridays probably. But so it's like working out what venues are good for a Friday that you're not going to get a certain crowd, but you are going to pull a crowd and all that sort of thing. But I like the competition aspect. I think like bringing a point of difference to a show is good to some extent. And I know there are like a lot of competition shows, and I don't like them all the time. I think the mix was good last time that worked, like half booked, half competition, so that you're not just hoping for the best and getting a room of open micers who, like, some competition shows you need the best MC because it's a competition. So you need someone who's like really good at, from start to finish, at keeping the show up regardless of how the open mic acts go.
Yeah, I think Good Chat have a really good balance, like doing their like the Bright Eyes, like the open mic where, you know, they have Shad pretty much runs that one.
Shad's a perfect example of like someone who's good at that particular thing. He did the Brat Pack. He was the host of the Brat Pack that I did back in the day, and was like just as good then as an MC.
And he does a good job of like being like, if something crazy happens, acknowledging it and like kind of making fun of it or whatever, but not being like overly mean about it, because it is people, you know, just giving it a go.
Which he's good at reminding the crowd as well. Like he'll remind us, like, these guys are like this all brand new, like, you know, give them your best kind of thing. And then he'll kind of, it's more like a comical mick take on something they've done or whatever. I mean, I remember Henry was doing in Brat Pack, he was just really nervous, I think, but he had like an A4 sheet of paper with jokes, but I think it was in his pocket or something like that. And he like kind of blanked on stage during his set, like maybe 2-3 minutes in, blanked. And so he got out this like paper. He was like, so sorry. And Shad's like, it's all good, like in the background kind of thing. And then all the pages were stuck together. And then eventually I think he figured out like one of his punchlines and then called it kind of thing. But then Shad came on stage like, why were the pages sticky? It's like, oh, you really like your jokes and stuff like that. Yeah. So it was like, it's making fun of him, but not in a mean, like, you suck or anything like. And he didn't suck. He was good. He was just so nervous. But yeah, I mean, he keeps up that comical tone and brings the crowd back in. If someone does bomb, it's like you do really need. You play cleanup as an MC when someone bombs, and then you have to like especially for an open micer to follow it. If you don't clean up after a bomb, that person's got it like up against them because they're like working with a crowd that you've just made cold. So it's a hard job, but Shad's good at it, like, for sure. And Nick Carr used to do a lot of those as well, and he was a really good MC for them. Peter James would be a good one nowadays, I think. But yeah,
definitely. Like with the because the term cleanup is basically you tell it like a joke or two to just win the crowd back over and get them on board again. Pretty much.
It's just like, it's like a reset after. And like, it's not everyone's fault. If people bomb, they bomb. That every comedian has or will at some point. But that MC's got to kind of like fix it in a way, like fix the tension in the room or whatever. Because people bomb because they've said something that set people aside, or, you know, it's a lot easier to come back from someone who's just not funny to someone who's soured the crowd. And like an MC's job is kind of like to unsour a crowd sometimes. Or keep it going. Like some MCs are bad at, like, I think it's a sign of someone who's not quite used to MCing yet if they run off of the energy that someone else created as the MC between a lot of acts. Like, you should do a 5 off the top or 10 if it takes that to set up the show. And then the second half, if you're splitting, do it again like a 5 or whatever. But otherwise, if the show's really good and the comic before you just crushed, just bring on the next comic. Because like, let them ride that energy. You don't want to ruin it for them, kind of thing.
And it's also important with open mics to kind of that reminder of like it is an open mic. Because I think
for sure
when people get excited, like they're new to comedy, like 6 months in, some people get excited and they like kind of start to run rooms or make shows, but the way they've marketed it kind of looks like a curated show. And I think that can maybe work against them sometimes.
100%.
If it's somewhat like if they're having comics that have also only been doing it for 6 to 12 months, like they're newer. They're 100%. You know, where they're also open micers, it might set a false expectation.
You're kind of upselling what it is. And so, this is not against anyone in particular, because nearly every room has done this, but saying like some of Brisbane's best comics or whatever it is, or some of City here best comics. And it's like, that is true on some occasions, but it's also like, not setting everyone up for success if there's like 7 of them are not established comics in Brisbane yet.
And it's like, it's also one of those things like, a lot of those open micers are probably great. But it's also when you see the difference, you also can tell the difference between the experience
100%.
of people that have been on stage for longer and who haven't.
And times like the whole difference there. Like, I mean, there shouldn't be an expectation for like an open micer to be killing every time.
Yeah.
The other side of it is that they're testing new jokes most of the time, or untested completely sort of bits that they've just started doing. And also, that is the type of show as well that established or professional comics will use for new material. So you're not even getting your crushers, your like curated crushers to crush, because they're like, great, this is an opportunity for me to like burn new material and see if it works and test new things. Yeah. So there's a big difference if you advertise as a curated show. I think that should be kind of what you do. And I've chopped and changed. Like, the Palace was an open mic sort of night, with some curated people peppered in, but I kind of made that like, do what you want. Like, I like it to be a room where you're working stuff out, and that's kind of the vibe we went with. Whereas West End, it was like, I would reach out to you kind of thing. Yeah. And some people would reach out to me and I'd be like, yeah, actually I've been meaning to message you or whatever. But I've had some people like, it's sort of a hard thing being a room runner and a comic, because it does sometimes come with expectations of like, you book me, I'll book you, and all that sort of stuff. And it's like, I'm a 4-year comic, man. Like there are some people that will be like, oh yeah, we can do each other's shows. And it's like, okay, but mine's like a curated show and I'm a paid comic, like in the scene. So we're not at the same, that's not the favor you think it is kind of thing. As bad as that sounds. I would have never done that when I started running rooms, because I wasn't an established comic. I was like here and there kind of thing. But there's an interesting thing, like a dynamic where the comics would, now I think I'm more of a comic to other comics because I'm not currently running a room. So any new comics coming through know me as a comedian. Yeah. Whereas new comics coming through would know me as a room runner and then talk to me differently than they would other comedians. Like, it was always kind of like trying to get a spot. Yeah. And it puts you in a really weird position because like, I want to be nice to everyone and encourage it. That's why I did the competition show. Like, yeah, I've got a competition show, you can do that one, like in the competition side of it. But then I've had people like message me like, do you dislike me? Am I like, do you think I'm a bad comic? And it's like, no, I just, don't think you're ready for that particular show, but you're ready for other shows for sure. Yeah. But it's a fun one. I focus more on comedy at the moment though, I guess.
And you've always been like, I remember when I first met you made it like clear to me, you're like, oh, I don't book anyone I haven't seen. I haven't seen you yet, so we'll go from there once I've seen you, kind of thing.
For sure. And at the time, I'd purposely keep my eye on the scene. Like, I'd be going to shows as often as I could, especially and open mics. If I was doing one like to work out sets and stuff like that, I would stay and watch the new people and. And then if anyone did stick out, I would talk to them or, give them advice on where else they should give comedy a go and things like that. What other rooms there were to try out and talk to. But yeah, I'm pretty big on like, I'd like to see someone do well a few times, like before booking them on that show. Palace was a show that they could just do. I had sign up for that. I did like a form thing at one point, and it's crazy how many inboxes you get when you run a room too. I'd have like 50 inboxes, and then it's like, that's the other thing. People get like, oh, you haven't answered me. And it's like, I'm really sorry. I would love to, but I have like 50. That's why these rooms are moving towards like forms and a sign up process, which works. But yeah, it's never personal realistically. Like, and I've had people as well that have like done my show and after I've booked them and they're not done very well. Twice kind of thing, and then it's like, okay, I'll keep an eye, like as soon as I see you crushing again, I'll book you. But like if it's a few in a row, it's like, okay, I'm not going to book you every time if every time it's not gone well kind of thing. That doesn't apply to you, by the way, because obviously your example was you, but no, there are people though, and usually I end up booking them again and they're good, but people go through slumps, working stuff out. But yeah, I think there is more of a scene building up again. It's like it did die down for a little while, but I think people are sort of getting back into it again. There's a few new rooms. There's a lot of new comics popping up that I've not seen. It's funny, comedy moves on so quickly when you're not in for like a few weeks.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes I see like there's also like like the Fiona McGarry like courses and stuff. I feel like sometimes
there's like a graduation of comics.
There's like a class of comics that kind of stick together.
100%. Which it's good that they're able to like build a community. Like it's also kind of got their own thing going on.
It's also good to have people that you're like experiencing like the same.
Yes.
Kind like
they're at the same part as you.
I kind of stuck with the people that I started at the same time as, because it's kind of like you're all going through the same thing.
Yeah. Definitely.
Rather than like, talk like you. I won't be able to relate to you necessarily in terms of talking about like what we're experiencing at that point in time, because like you're on paid gigs and I'm still doing like mostly like open mic kind of stuff too.
Yeah, I think it's like it's one of those things, and like some comics will offer you that perspective. Like I can also relate definitely to like where you're at, for example, and were a year ago and that sort of thing, because I did it. Yep. But obviously at like different times in the scene, there's like different rooms going on, and so it does change. But I think it's also like the comfortability of new comics to even engage with some bigger comics, because it is like, it's one of those things, like we're in an industry where famous people do sort of dip in and out of our scene, and it's like sometimes you are like, oh, I'm not going to bother that person, like they're obviously like big or whatever, like they don't want an open micer asking them questions most of the time. But some of them are really nice, and then some of the pro comics are really nice. But I think there is that like gap of like, I don't want to bother them and ask them questions, so I'll just leave it. So if you've got a group of people around you that are doing the same thing at the same time, you've got something to like feel it out with. Yep. Which is good. I mean, it was the same for us with Brat Pack. They sort of have that like graduation in a way, like where you suddenly all come up in the same sort of scene at the same time. Yeah. But yeah, like Henry Shearman is like, I met him at Brat Pack for the first time, and then we kind of just chatted here and there, and then it's like same thing, like how's open mics going for you? I don't know where to sign up. What about this? And then so you end up talking to people about what they're doing, and it eggs you on to do more, I think, when you see your friends succeed. So
you and Henry met through comedy?
Yeah.
You guys lived together at one point, didn't you?
Yeah. He lived with me for like 11 months. We took him in like a little lost lamb. No, I'm kidding. But and that's how that started. It was like, doing Brat Pack together. And I guess like we did like a couple of joke writing sessions, me, him, and Bryce Lancaster. And at the time, Regan Milne, he's not been in the scene for a little while, but he always did quite well back then. I think Shannon Morm, who's like, I think she's interstate now. I think she moved to Germany and came back. And so people have sort of all gone separate ways, but Henry and I sort of stuck it out and are still here. So I guess it's like, but probably through that though, it's like you maintain friendships, and then it's like, oh, that makes me want to keep going that they're in the scene and doing it. But yeah, it's funny. I never thought I'd live with another comic, and then obviously it did eventually. So I hadn't actually considered it like that. Yeah, funny. But yeah, I mean, since that point, I guess like for now, I'm just kind of focusing on the comedy side of things. But I do think those open, like, do you think open micers is an offensive term? It's not, but it kind of comes across like open micers.
I think I'm kind of split on it. I can kind of see it might be like open micers, like then the new it is like a term. But I think that
it's also that kind of what they are at the time.
Yeah, it's like I kind of take it as, for me it's like a bit encouraging, because it's kind of like, I'm an open micer right now, but obviously I want to work my way out of that.
Yeah, I think the difference is like, would that room put you on their stage if they were paying you? Yeah. If it was a paid spot, would you be doing it? That's literally the difference, I would say. And like I think if you start getting paid, you can just be like, I'm a comedian, basically. Like if you're getting paid spots, emceeing and headlining or whatever, I think that's comedian. But yeah, unpaid spots are essentially open mic spots. I don't think, I can see the people go, I think it's that they see the divide, like it's like open micer versus comic, and it's like a we're different, you and me. But
yeah, I think even if you've done if you've done stand-up once, if you're an open mic, you're still a comedian.
For sure.
Yeah, for sure. But it's just like, you're just like, but you're not getting...
You're essentially not a professional comedian, which is really the difference. I mean, I was actually big on it at the time. I forget who it was, but there's like the Brisbane Facebook comedy messaging page, like gigs and that. Someone they made this big thing, and it was just as I'd like come into the scene. and got added to that page. And there was like this rant about open micers who call themselves comedians, like off the bat, like, he was like, you're not a comedian yet, stop saying that you're that. Until you're getting paid in my books, you're not a comic. And it's like, I think you are. I agree with you. Like, you're doing comedy, aren't you? It's like, if you're singing, you're a singer. Like, you have to be a professional singer, I guess. But he went on this rant and stuff, and I didn't comment. I was like too new at the time, but sort of seeing a back and forth between people. But at the time, my Instagram page, and I'd only done like 5 gigs, maybe 10 gigs at the most, it said, comedian, like Zak Hadfield, comedian. But if you don't brand yourself in the area that you're trying to get more work in, then like, how are you going to expect to get more things if you're like, well, I'm not a comedian, but I would like to do a show? It's like, no, you're not a comedian. But it's like, if you're like, I'm a comedian, it's like, yeah, great, come do my show. So you have to brand yourself as a comedian, even if you are just doing open mics. But I get it. I get both sides of it. It's different when people... I think what the established comics don't like is someone being like, I'm the same as you, or like, I'm at the same level you're at. And I get that. Like, you earn your stripes in this sort of scene. So I do get that sort of, but at the same time, we all had to do the same thing. So I guess it's like perspective. But it's an interesting one, because I think people are looking at open mic as an insult, but it's really not. We all were one at one point.
And it's also that thing too. A lot of like the established people are still doing open mics, and there is a crossover. Like, there is a mass, and as you said, like, there's a massive crossover with people in the industry open micers and stuff. So. And
that's the good thing, is like, you get to be amongst all of the professionals whilst you're working it out for yourself. It's like working with people that like, they're doing what you want to be doing, so you can really like learn from having a scene like that. And we have it here obviously because Brisbane, in terms of sort of gig opportunity, is not amazing. Like, even when I went to America, they were like, how many gigs are there like a night there? And I'm like, sometimes 1 or 2. Like, it's like, there's probably 5 or 6 established rooms that people are like, I know that place to go to, and they do gigs on Wednesdays or Thursdays or whatever it is. But otherwise, it's like 1 or 2 gigs, sometimes 3. Like, I remember Thursdays at one point, we had 4 gigs that you could do in the one night. But in other places, like, a lot of people listen to American podcasts to sort of understand the comedy scene and stuff. But their scene, you can do 11 gigs in one night. And that's like normal. Like, so of course you're going to have like, it's actually good for Brisbane, because I think it ups our standard, because you're always in front of the professional comics who are doing gigs. And it's not like with the American ones too, or any like even though like, there's 11 gigs. You can do 11 gigs in one night. Most of those are going to be to like 3 people still. Like, it's not like it's 100%. Like, like 11, like 60 header kind of like. So there probably is like, less gig opportunities, less stage time, but there's probably more. There's still like a decent amount of people. Definitely,
showing up to those gigs.
One of the things I didn't actually realize as well is, because I listened to the Jack Knight episode of this, just to kind of I just wanted to hear what Jack's mind is like in a podcast situation. But he'd mentioned about Sydney and Melbourne and that sort of thing, and how if you're good in Brisbane, you're like pretty good in Sydney and Melbourne. Actually, was that Sam Bowden that said that? Maybe.
I feel like they've both.
It was possibly both of them have mentioned that. But and I've heard that a few throughout the scene as well. Just like, if you can land good jokes here, you'll definitely land them in Sydney and Melbourne. I guess it depends on how offensive they are, but otherwise they land. As in, the crowd are more like giving, I guess, in terms of feedback. But we also, I only realized after going to America that they know that about Brisbane as well.
Really?
Like, like people I talked to there were like, oh, Brisbane, like, I hear that like the comedians that come out of there are really good because it's really tough to do well.
That's funny.
And I'm like, that's interesting.
Yeah, wow. Because I thought, I wasn't sure if it was something that, Brisbane comics were saying about ourselves, like, because
like shouting ourselves out.
You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like, I mean, that being said, Akmal actually said something similar to me too. So it's not just people from Brisbane.
Yeah.
But for a while, that's what I thought. Oh, like, are we like a tougher? Like, do we have tougher crowds to face?
Yeah.
So it's interesting that it's reached America.
Yeah, Yeah, and I guess they just hear it from people who tour or whatever, or maybe go there. But not that I think there are heaps of Brisbane comics outside. But yeah, I didn't even know Brisbane was really on the map. So it was surprising to me that they were like, oh, I've heard Brisbane's this. I'm like, oh, you know of Brisbane. I just,
I guess like whenever a big like an arena show tour for comedy comes over, like Brisbane's going to be one of the tour dates.
That's true.
For sure.
Yeah, for sure.
And most of the time, bare minimum is like Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane.
Yeah, just like East Coast capital cities.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think, we're definitely getting more known. And I think weirdly the Gold Coast is known for some reason as like a place to like go. Like Americans like, oh, near the Gold Coast. I'm like, okay, sure. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting I don't know what it is that actually causes that though. Like whether our crowds are like I don't know what makes them stricter.
Yeah.
To be honest, I haven't done a gig. I've done Coffs Harbour, but I've not done a gig in Sydney yet, which is weird because I did America,
really?
but I've not done Sydney or Melbourne yet. I need to. Like, I should just go and do it, but I just haven't booked. I haven't tried to go over there. But yeah, it'd be interesting to test it out.
Have you done any other like places in Australia besides Brisbane, kind of out area?
I ran a show in Hervey Bay. That's where I went to high school and stuff.
Yep.
My parents still live there, and my sister. So I went there and ran a show for like a charity event thing. And that was fun. Like, it's an interesting sort of thing to get a regional crowd. Like, they are different, but they liked it. So, it went well. I think we sold like a heap of, I think it was 130 something tickets we sold in the end, which is like, because they don't get shows there, they're like, oh, a comedy show with Brisbane comics. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
They're from the Big Smoke. So that was like kind of fun. But outside of that, no, I've done like Coffs Harbour, and then mainly Brisbane and Gold Coast, like based comedy, obviously, in the Gold Coast and things like that. But otherwise, no. And then just America, I guess, like LA and Austin, which is like, I just wanted to kind of figure out what their scenes are like there. Mm-hmm. Which is an interesting jump, I know. I should have gone interstate first, but I didn't have the time.
Actually, so tell us about your America trip. That was like super recent, right?
Yeah, I went like mid-October, sorry. So a couple of months back, but it's I basically I wanted to get out there for a while, and I have a baby on the way now, and so and it's coming very quickly. So I sort of got this window of time to go over before it would be like probably like 2 years before I can do something like that.
Yeah.
And like at that time that I'd mentioned about COVID, the other weird thing that was happening here in this scene was, and in the world, I guess, is so many filming locations shut down because of restrictions and things like that. But one of the locations that was still open was the Gold Coast. So all of these people came over and started filming TV shows and movies and stuff here. Mm-hmm. And Matt Damon and Melissa McCarthy and one of the Hemsworth brothers all live in Byron Bay at the time. And so everyone kind of came over here to film stuff and do things still. And they were filming young rock here on the coast. And so a few random comics kind of came through. One of them being Ronnie Chieng, because he was in Young Rock for like a bit. And he, I think, was friends with Damien Power. And Damien got him a gig at like Brooklyn Standard with Chloe Madron's room.
Oh, wow.
At the time. It was called Don't Choke comedy she had. And so Ronnie Chieng just dropped into this gig and I guess got to know a few people. And then he told other comedians that were in Young Rock that they should sort of get in touch with people here. And that's where I met Adam Ray, who is like he's, doing well. He's actually doing better now in America, but over the last 3 years, that was 3 years ago now. Mm-hmm. And he came back for a couple of seasons, and every time I'd kind of book rooms and shows for him and things. And then sort of the last time he was here, he was like, you should come out to America and I'll show you the scene there. And let me know if you're there and I'll hook you up and we'll hang out and stuff. And then when I got this baby news, I was kind of like, oh, I'll just put it off. Yeah. And my girlfriend, she's great, but she's basically like, no, you should do it now. Mm-hmm. Otherwise you'll be antsy about it or like regret not going now, and it will be harder to go and establish yourself or whatever. So she was really supportive. I was like, I don't really want to leave you alone, pregnant, and blah, blah, blah. So my aunt came and looked after her whilst I was gone, stayed with us. And yeah, I just went and sort of checked out the scene. I started in LA. The first gig I did there was a small one that I'd just heard about through other comics that went there. And that was, as you say, like 6 or 7 people maybe. And I just wanted to test material that I have here and know works with Australians. And then it's like, I have no idea what an American crowd likes and whether they'll find me funny. So I wanted to do at least one smaller show before trying the bigger ones. And another sort of friend of mine, Dan Green, he's a security guard at Laugh Factory in Hollywood, and he'd sort of said, like, because he came here and did a few gigs and things, and I helped book those at the time, and he was like, oh, if you ever come out to LA, I'll get you on the Laugh Factory. And I was like, good one. Like, sure, buddy. You know, I was like, okay, yeah. But like, I thought he was joking. And then I messaged him just to be like, hey, what rooms should I do in LA? Like, I just want to try things out. And then he was like, I'll get back to you with some dates and stuff and find some stuff for you. And then he messaged me and was like, I got you on Laugh Factory on this Thursday. And I was like, what the hell? Like, that's insane. And that was before I left. Like, it was maybe a month out to going there. And so I was like, holy shit. Like, I didn't think that would be the jump kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I did this small gig. Then I met Adam like a couple of days after I landed and had done this one gig. And he sort of took me out, like, just around shows and things. We like hung out at the Comedy Store, which was like, the Comedy Store's insane.
Yeah.
It's yeah, I mean, that's where it's at in LA.
Yeah. Have you seen the documentary on the Comedy Store?
Yeah.
The series is so good.
It's so cool. I mean, just the history in those walls is insane in terms of just like the comedy scene and even like Hollywood.
Yeah, if you're a fan of movies and stuff, and like all the different people that have went through there.
Nearly every late night television host, like David Letterman and all that, all went through
Michael
there.
Keaton, he was a comedian when he started.
Apparently he was really funny too. People found him really funny, which is interesting. And then there's a few people. The Wayans brothers, one of Damon Wayans or something, I think, was a comic there. Eddie Murphy, obviously. Nuts. And then you walk in, and Richard Pryor and that, and you walk in their halls, and there's like pictures of all these like crazy comedians that are like history making comics, and it's just like, I mean, it's packed every night. Obviously, actually, like the first night I landed, I landed like 2 p.m. Awful long flight. I don't like the flight there. It sucks, but it was worth it. But I was like, I'm going to sleep for like 2 hours and then try and get to a show. So I went to a show that night. I was like jet lagged as hell, but went to the Comedy Store. And Jeff Ross was headlining it. And there was like a few other like pretty good comics. Some that I didn't know that I now follow, and I'm like, they were really good. Yeah. Rick Glassman, I think, was there. There's like a few. And they sat me right at the front because I was like a ticket on my own kind of thing. And there's like, there's one seat over here. And it was like the stage, I could like touch it, which is really weird. Jeff Ross roasted me. I was wearing of course. And I was like right at the front. I was like, fuck, Jeff Ross is headlining this show. And
that would stress
I'm
me
sitting
out.
right at the front.
That would fucking stress me out. Do you have a thing where you hate crowd work and you'd rather be on stage and have someone do the crowd work to you? Because
I think, I mean, definitely as a comic there's that. I wouldn't have cared back when I wasn't a comedian, but when people like ask about what you do and why you're here, and like when I was first starting out, I would go to shows and sit at the front or sit just wherever, but if you're sat at the front, it's like, I'm going to get crowd work done, and they'll be like, why are you here? And it's like, I'm a comedian. Like, and then you know that comic's like, fuck, this person's a comedian. So now it's going to be a weird interaction. But I mean, I've never wanted to be, because you also don't want to be funnier than the comic. So I don't want to be like funny really with my answers. Like, you want to be honest, but not like, but I'd rather be funny. So I guess I would rather be the comedian asking than the person in the crowd. So sorry everyone, I've done that too. But it's a weird one, crowd work, because that's where like there's this influx of people now yelling out at shows, And I think it comes from TikTok and Instagram and all that. Because everyone doesn't want to burn material. So they post all their crowd work. So what people see in their algorithm nearly all the time from stand-ups is crowd interaction.
Yeah, I think there is like a shift now with all the TikTok stuff coming out, is because I've been asked like, oh, like what crowd work do you do? I'm like, I've never done any crowd work.
Yeah.
Like, and especially when, I think another thing too is when you're at an open mic level, you get most of the spots you're getting are 5 minutes. And that's not
for sure.
any time to do.
No.
That's not enough time to do any kind of crowd work, really.
No. Yeah.
I'd rather just do the material.
100%.
So.
Yeah, it's a funny one. I had someone ask me the other day why I didn't do crowd work at a gig. He was like seeing me for the first time as like a mate, and it was a 10, and he was like, you didn't do much crowd work. And I was like, yeah, I've got like a set amount of time and material I want to try. Like, you can really derail your set by doing crowd work, and it couldn't go well. And if you're trying to practice crowd work, perfect opportunity to do it in a 10. But yeah, I've got like 10 minutes of stuff written down that I want to give a go, you know. But yeah, I mean, I get it. And I also get the not burning your material thing. And so you post the stuff that's a one-off that you won't, you're not burning through anything. And it's still selling your profile. But it's just a funny sort of thing it does to crowds where now people almost assume that interaction is part of the show. And so that I find people yell out more these days, which I've never had a big issue with myself. I tend to just steamroll them. Keep going over the top of yelling and stuff. I don't really engage much.
I think people also think that like heckling is just because a lot of people are like, oh, do you get like
it's like the first question, do you get heckled?
Yeah, it's very rare to actually have someone yell out like you suck or be mean.
Yeah,
it's like
I've never had that.
Yeah, I've never had it. It's like almost not a thing. I've seen it happen maybe like 2 times in the last 2 years to other people, but it's
That's
like
unfortunate.
Yeah, very unfortunate. But like, people don't understand that heckling is just yelling out anything.
Yeah, and most
like,
people do it thinking that
they're adding to the joke
they're
or they're
part of
being
it.
funny, but half the time they're cutting the tension you've already built before you're about to hit the punchline.
Yeah, I actually worded that very specifically before you cut in and said that. And now I have to like regroup basically. That's the heckle you don't want as well. I mean, you don't want to be told you suck. That would be hard.
Yeah.
I've never had a confrontational heckler.
Yeah.
I've had people talking and stuff, and I've had some like interesting shows and it's usually where it's like a pub setting or something, and it's what I call a surprise show.
Yeah.
Where all these people were already there drinking, and there's a show. Yeah, it just starts, and they're like, "Oh, I'm not going to listen to this."
Yeah.
So I'm just going to talk loudly in the background.
I think those type of like when it's like they were just out for dinner, it happens to be a comedy show, I kind of almost like, I don't know, like I get it. I get why 100%. They're like, especially if they're talking, it's like, oh well, you know,
I came here to hang out with my friend.
Yeah, we're kind of talking while you were talking anyway. Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
You just have a speaker. So we don't.
I feel like we're seeing a lot less of that in the Brisbane scene
think so,
now.
yeah.
I think a lot more like ticketed or it's free, but it's like reserved is like kind of the trend at the moment where like people
know it's a comedy show that they're going to. Yeah. That was the aim, which is good. I think that's much better. One of the things actually to get used to in America is every big room. Have you ever heard of like the drink minimums, 2 drink minimums and stuff like that? So like the Comedy Store and I don't know if Laugh Factory had a minimum, but the Comedy Store, you have to order 2 drinks whilst you're there.
What the fuck?
Yeah, and so when they seat you, they will come out during the show, which is weird as a comedian. Like, I didn't do the Comedy Store, but I was just thinking from their perspective how weird that would be to get used to. And this did happen at the Laugh Factory as well, but a server will come out to every table whilst you're on stage and take their order and then bring them out a receipt and like next table, next table, next table. So throughout your whole set, there's just this like waitress going table to table, and then they start again because it's a 2 drink minimum. So they have to get 2 orders of drinks from each table whilst comedians are on stage, which is hard to get used to.
2 drink minimum. So does that mean? So do you mean when you order a drink, it needs to be a minimum of 2, or do you mean to attend the show?
When you buy your ticket, you agree that you'll also buy 2 drinks whilst you're there. You can have soft drinks. It doesn't have to be alcoholic, but it's basically, I guess, so that they can justify, the fees and stuff. So you pay like realistically, if you're going to like the Comedy Store, you'll pay like at least $80 American to have a night there.
Jesus. I guess...
But it's big acts, like, TV, Netflix special acts that are just on stage. So it's cool.
Yeah.
But off-putting as a comic to see a waitress taking orders. And people are like, I might have the, what's the white wine like? Is that good? What kind of year was that? And it's like, but yeah, you don't get that so much here, thankfully. But that was a thing that I think was a bit jarring when, at the Laugh Factory, because you kind of have to ignore it. But yeah. So I guess when I was in the store, like the first night, I just watched as like a crowd member, just to see it, and then the next day I think was probably when I met with Adam, and we went to the store because I think we met at Laugh Factory because he had a set there, and so I watched his set there, and then we went over to the store and he had a set there at like 10:30 or something. But that particular night, I don't know if it's like that all the time, or every now and then, but it just seemed to like hum there. Like it's just like a weird sort of vibe you get. I guess like everyone kind of knows what it is and where they are there. So like there's just like a weird energy, like a good energy, but like it was just kind of crazy to sort of see it in the perspective of like the comics, because obviously I was with Adam, he was just sort of taking me around all the back areas, and when you go to the Comedy Store, if you know how they've got like the 3 rooms there, so there's like the main room, which and then there's the main room, and then the OR, which is the original room, and then there's the belly room upstairs, and they all have shows running consistently through the night. Yeah. But comedy shows that go from around about 7 or 8 p.m. to 2 in the morning.
Yeah,
constant.
I've heard it's kind of it's kind of like there'll be a show until either 2 a.m. or till the last person's like until there's no crowd standing. Basically,
I mean, America's licensed, or at least LA's licensed until like 2 in the morning, I think. So all the bar shuts then. I think they do start sort of getting people out. But like the comics do sort of stay and hang. I actually got to meet Jeff Ross like 2 days after. Oh, he roasted me, but at the store, and hung with them like sort of downstairs in like their green room area. But yeah, I mean, the rooms though, you have to buy a ticket for each room. So whatever you bought a ticket for, that's the show you're going to. It's not kind of like, well, I'm in here, I can pop in and out. But because I was with Adam, I was like really lucky, because he's like, we'll go see this comic in that room, and then we'll go to this room and see this comic, and then we'll pop upstairs. And so I got to see like Roast Battle upstairs in the belly room, which was cool. And like, it was they crowned a new champion of Roast Battle and stuff and gave him the golden belt. So it was just like I just happened to get the weekend where all of the stuff was happening there, which was cool. And then Laugh Factory I did like the next day, and that was like a very interesting experience. As in, like, it was a really good show, but it's just so much to take in when you're there, because it's like, I think everyone's just seen that background on so many like, social media posts or
famous or infamous clips.
Yeah. What in particular stands out? It was hard not to comment on that, like the Kramer thing, just being like, it's nice to stand where Kramer stood.
Yeah, I feel like
everyone does it.
Yeah, it's one of those things I feel like it'd be. Yeah, it's hard not to want to do that. But like, everyone else has done this.
100%. Yeah, they're used to hearing that there, I bet. And I think Chappelle even did a bit on that when he was there about like, it's nice to see where someone else said the N-word here or something like that. Yeah. But and also you just don't want to like get the bookers offside already by being like, remember this bad thing that happened here? Like, it's like, stop talking about that. But yeah, I mean, I had to like, because I was the most nervous I've ever been, maybe since the first gig I ever did, where you're like, obviously like a ball of nerves. Or at least I was. I think most people are. But it was like exactly like when I was first starting out as a comedian. Yeah. Like that's the sort of, because it's just like, kind of an iconic room. But I was just like, when I get on stage, I'm going to be like, take the background in for a sec. Yeah. And then it's funny how you reset though. Now I'm looking at the crowd and not what's behind me. And it's just like, it's a comedy gig. So like, but it was a fun show. Like,
it looks like quite a high stage. Kind of like, is it like sit down height?
I would say slightly below sit down, but it is high. Yeah. There's like 3 steps up it. just like from the front. So it's actually like the front right as a crowd member, on stage left, I guess. There's like just 2 or 3 steps, and then you're on the thing, and it's like carpeted, which is funny.
Yeah, because I saw a video of like a guy falling off of it.
Yeah,
that went around last year.
Which I guess you could do. It's not. I don't know. Yeah, you would definitely fall down, but like not. It's not high. Like sit down, I think you'd hurt yourself more if you fell.
Would, yeah.
Oh, still not a place to fall. Like right on the Laugh Factory stage. It's there's also a few Laugh Factories, so I don't know. I think there is one with a higher stage.
Oh, there are a few.
Well, the Hollywood one is like the one that most people know with that orange background. But there used to be another one, I think, in Santa Monica. Maybe there's another Comedy Room. San Diego, maybe. It's one of them. And then there's a few like improvs as well in like a couple of places. But then the Hollywood Improv is kind of like the one that people know. But yeah, they were a fun crowd at Laugh Factory. I did find that they're a bit more like a commercial crowd almost. It's like, you know how there's certain shows where it's like people come for a night out, but they're not big fans of comedy. They're like, I've heard of this place.
It's kind of like they're there for a dinner and a show, kind of.
Yeah.
Like,
But they're not normally in that sort of scene, I guess. And I feel like that's Laugh Factory. It's kind of like a tourist destination of like, you can see a really good show here and someone crazy might drop in.
Yeah.
But like Comedy Store had more of a vibe of like people all want to be here and they're really into comedy.
It's funny because I thought it would have been like the opposite.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was, yeah. And then I find the Hollywood Improv was in between. It was like a mixture of the two.
Yeah.
But that was cool too. I mean, I was very lucky. Like, I got a spot on the Hollywood Improv as well. And that's one of the most fun shows I've ever done, I would say. Like, that was my favorite show in America when I did them. And there's like 2 rooms there. One's the main stage, and then there's one called The Lab, and I was in The Lab, obviously. But it was a really fun show. It was like just energetic and lively, but it was also Halloween weekend when I was there. So like there were like comics dressed up as, you know, whatever. Like I actually told a Michael Jackson joke, and then the MC came out in a full Michael Jackson costume after I got off stage, which was so funny. Because he'd planned to do it later on in the show. But then when I did the Jackson jokes, he was like, I'm getting changed now. I like ran upstairs and he like came out as Michael Jackson, which was so funny. But yeah, that crowd were wild. Like they were just into it, which I was not expecting for the Hollywood Improv either, because I thought that was more like a performance venue kind of thing, like theatrical in a way. But yeah, very cool.
Did you find that how did you go with doing material that you've tried and tested in Australia?
It worked.
Did that translate to...
Yeah, it did. I think there are certain things that, and I don't mean this offensively to Americans, you'd probably have to explain a little more, like certain things they didn't get. And it's like, I found, like the second time I tried something, I added a couple of words and it was better. So like, it's not, I think it's on my socials, but I have that joke about Vatican City. So, like, I tell a fact, Vatican City is the only country that doesn't have a name for the people that come from it. Like, I'll give it a crack, pedophiles. Like, and so they, like, I think the second time I told it, it worked well, but, like, half the crowd just kind of was like, oh, thinking I was just still telling a fact. And then the second time I told it, I was like, Vatican City, where the Pope lives.
Yeah.
Is like, and then they're like, yeah, Vatican City, where the Catholic Pope, and then it's like they put 2 and 2 together, but it took a little bit more explaining, maybe.
Yeah.
So I think it's just like a lot of Americans know about America, and so like you kind of like Vatican City might not be a place they've heard of, whereas here we're more aware of where the Vatican is, you know. So just little things like that, but overall, like it all translated much better than I thought it would actually, and they like being made fun of. Like I just added like a minute on America and being an Australian there, and you know, finding accommodation and stuff. Because when I was looking at it, it's so hard to know where to go there, because there's like dangerous areas of LA, like all over the place. And it's like, oh, this place is nice. That's quite cheap. Where is that? Oh, Compton. I'm not staying there. Like, I've heard of that in a rap song, so I'm going to give that a miss. And I just told jokes like that, and then they got more on board. But they're really big on like, oh my God, I love LA. So I was told by nearly every person who's from there, like, oh, just like shout out LA, like you're happy to be there and love it there, and it's the best.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I've noticed that, like, it's so funny. I know more about America than most kind of places. I guess like Americans
certainly the comedy
seem to,
scene.
yeah, Americans seem to be very like proud and like,
for sure,
especially about like they'll be like, oh, Boston or where they kind of back where they're from,
their
like
city.
fully,
yeah, 100%.
Or Staten Island and certain like even like kind of smaller areas of like
New York's really like Queens and stuff. I'm from this part and not that part.
The Bronx.
And and they have like different personalities. I find like just being from this one area and stuff, like the culture there is like that. It's this person and that's a whole different area. West and East Hollywood are night and day apart. Excuse me, that's rude to do that in the microphone. They're like you can take a left to like East Hollywood and it's just like, you know, homeless people. And I took my watch off walking down certain streets. Like I'm not wearing a watch here just because you just like feel unsafe in certain areas. But you walk like 2 minutes another way, go to West Hollywood, and it's like bougie Beverly Hills mansions and designer stores, and it's like 2 minutes one way. So it's like it is very like people are almost like divided specifically, which is, you know, I guess we see that on our news and stuff here about them. But it's and then LA and Texas are night and day different as well. Like I can see why the comedy scene in is starting to move over to Texas for some reasons. Besides, obviously, tax purposes, which I think is Rogan's biggest thing was not paying LA tax. But that's an entirely different scene. One of the things I did notice, actually, like LA, I was very lucky with the people because I know people there and they very much helped me get onto the cool shows. But I think as a new comic, it would be hard to start out in LA. Yeah. Because there's no one talks, like they don't know, you don't know the scene kind of thing. So you'd have to really like find out where all these niche rooms are. The first one I did to like 7 people, I was like, this can't be right. Because I got this address and I went to this place and it looked like a kind of like office rental spaces. Just like, like if you have 20 offices in one sort of small district and they're like a 1-person, 2-person office, like you're starting out a business and get like this small thing. And that it just looked like a bunch of those sort of units. And I was like, this can't be right. And then they're like, use this code on the gate to get in. And I was like, well, I guess if this works and it's the right place. And then the gate opened and I was like, this seems dodgy as fuck. Because I just got this like sign up form, signed up. They're like, you're on at 8. I'm like, cool, I'll go. And then I knock and then they answer the door and they're like, you're not on yet. Hang tight. Just close the door. And I was like, okay, weird. And then I could hear the show in there. So I was like, this must be right. And then they came out and said that. And then this guy cleared out like 5-10 minutes later. And there was like a second show starting. So it's like, as a comic, you promise to be there for the full hour to watch all of the comics. So when they're like, it's not ready yet, it's like, you're in the next one. And then this group of comics are coming out with me for the next show. And you're kind of like, booked in as a comic in front of all the other comics. It's interesting, but like real strange. But then that was like a good testing ground. But I knew that because Dan was like, this is someone to talk to. And I would have had no idea where this place was, how to get in touch in the first place or anything. So I was lucky to have the connections there. Whereas Austin, completely different. It's like, I want to get the Austin scene in Brisbane. Like, it's a crazy difference.
Yeah, even just following like Austin, like following all the podcasts, you know, the Rogans and all like the Kill Tonys and stuff. It like in the the last 2 years, it seems like the comedy scene is like kind of uprooted from LA and gone towards like Austin.
It's definitely like, obviously like Rogan has certain people just around him, and I think they sort of often gravitate towards what he does. And obviously he's knows what he's doing, but I think that's most of the traction in Austin as well, is like he's basically made it a place that people want to go to make it, which is really interesting. Like so many people I talked to there moved to Austin to do comedy, and they like uprooted their life in another state. And now they live in their van and stuff, which is crazy to me. But they'll like live in a car or a van and try and make it. And it's just like, but this is a place to make it. And they have sign-ups at the Comedy Mothership. Like I signed up. I didn't get on. But I signed up both days. They have a sign-up open mic every Sunday and Monday. But in Austin, I just showed up, signed up to these things that I read about on Reddit. And then everyone else is signing up at the same thing, and they only have sign-up times between 5:30 and I think 5 and 5:30. So you have to show up at 5 up to 5:30. There are comics there, but because there's such a small window of time to sign up, all of these comics are in one space. So you just end up talking to like one of 40 comics. Like, oh, are you signing up? Oh, yeah. Then you end up talking, and it's like, oh, well, I'll go from here and actually sign up at this room and then this room. And so all these comics are just telling me where to sign up. Yeah. I end up doing like 3 shows in one night, just signing up that night.
Yeah.
Because they sign up on the day of and then show up and do it.
That's how I found going to Sydney, actually.
Really?
Sydney,
that's cool.
There's one, to be fair, I did a few, like, because in Brisbane, we don't have any sign up on the night kind of mics. I think
that's something I'd consider doing.
Yeah.
Now that I've seen it.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool to have something like that here, at least
for sure.
Like, obviously, one room, just trying it to see.
Yeah. Because
at least, like, you're not competing with like 10 others or 5 other kind of rooms like that. But it was cool because I was like maybe 30 to 40 comics. Everyone was able to get a spot.
That's cool.
But then it'd be like, oh, you're from Brisbane for the week? Here. Oh, and then you'd talk to people that run rooms and be like, oh, actually, I can get you a spot. But they're like, cool. Unfortunately not here until Sunday. Otherwise, I'll be able to give you like a Sunday spot. Yeah. Things like that. So,
but they might give you more info as well on other people to talk to. It's definitely good. I think it establishes more of a scene in that sense. And that's the thing is it's like I got to then, like I went to those shows with those comics. They're like, well, I'm signing up here. Do you want to come? It's like a walk away. Because that's all of the comedy scene, or at least most of it, is on like 6th Street in Austin. So it's just like room and then a few food places and then another room and a few food places, another room. So there's like 5 on one street. So you can kind of like sign up. And then there's one here at 5 and then another sign up at 8 and then one and this one at 7. And so you can sign up and then go back and forth between rooms. It's pretty cool. Like it really did establish that there was a scene there. Like you could just you'd at least get a show every single night, which is pretty wild. There was one in a pizza place.
Oh, nice.
Just a back of a pizza, top of a pizza place, and then all these comics but it was like 20 people in the crowd, and nearly all of them were comics. But you got 3 minutes, that's a new one as well. 3 minutes, and like to establish, I think yourself and do well in 3 minutes is. I think challenge.
Sydney was kind of like that too. Actually, I think on the open mic one, I got like 3 minutes.
Yeah,
as well.
Which really makes you think about the length of your jokes.
Yeah. What are some things that, you said about Austin? Like, what are some things you'd like to take from Austin and, like, utilize here?
I think, that sign-up thing's definitely one of them. Sign up on the night type things. I think it would be good to see a room like that. I did get to go to Kill Tony whilst I was there as well, which was cool.
Were you there with the Heath Cordes episode? Was that when you were there? Or
no, I was there for Duncan Trussell, where he had like a puppet as well with him called Lil something. Oh, okay. It's quite funny. Yeah. But yeah, no, it was just Duncan Trussell when I went, which was cool. I was wondering if Shane Gillis would be on it because he had a show the day before at the Mothership. Yeah. And I was like, I wonder if he'll be the guest, but he wasn't. But it was still a really good show. I actually talked to Tony as well before it. Because he was like, who's come here from the furthest? Just, when they run, do you listen to Kill Tony? Yeah. You know how they run the ads for like 8 minutes, you skip those. Obviously, just kidding, podcast listeners, listen to them all when Peter puts them up. But so he actually does talk. They run the ads silently kind of thing, and he actually talks for the 8 minutes to the crowd and kind of like establishes the show. So he talked to me whilst it wasn't recording, I guess, or like whilst the ads were running. But he was like, who's here from the furthest away? Give us a yell. And I was like, I'm going to whistle because I'm definitely from the furthest away, I think. And then he's like, who's the whistle? And I was like, oh, me. And he's like, where are you from? Like, Australia. And he kind of like, we went back and forth. He just asked me a few questions on whether I'd signed up and all that, which I did. Obviously, I didn't get on. Would have been dope to do Kill Tony, but
I remember you told me you were going to sign up. Yeah, I was kind of hoping you to get on it.
It would have been amazing to do it. There's so many people,
so you didn't have to wait outside because I know that.
So if you buy tickets, you don't have to wait outside. Okay. But otherwise, yes, everyone's just behind.
It's like 200 people in like an alley or something, right?
Yeah,
or in
it's
a
like
different room.
It's sort of so they've built it out now just so it's not 200 people waiting in an alley because I think they were like, this is a problem. Because when I went, I think it was 180 something signups, which is a hell of a lot. But they had, there's a room 2 doors over called Shakespeare's, which is like a big bar, like 2-story bar. And the sign up is upstairs. So there's literally comedians lining out the door, up the stairs, around, and then there's like these 2 tables where they sign you up. And the 2 tables are like if you've signed up before and if you sign up for the first time. Because the first time they need you to sign that you're able to be televised or whatever, or like put on YouTube. And so I was kind of lucky there because I got to skip the queue because so many people sign up every week. Yeah. So I was just like straight to the new people line. There are people that are lining up there for like an hour to sign up. And then they basically now hang out in that Shakespeare's place whilst they're waiting. And now they message through like 3 minutes before they... Like, I think it's during the interview that they actually pull the next one. And then... So they're aware like 10 minutes before and they take the person over so that there aren't just people in the streets. But yeah, definitely interesting. It's a really cool sort of thing. But I was like again, like I went and saw the show as well. So you can get called out from the thing, but you have to tell them that you're in the show so that they know to call you from the stage inside, or whatever. But yeah, that was awesome. I think a show in that style would be cool to bring here as well in terms of taking something from that scene. They have a lot of shows that are similarly set up. So there's a few rooms. I know the Vulcan where Kill Tony used to be. They ran a thing there, which was just like... You could do a set. So they had a show where you did a 2-minute set or 3-minute set uninterrupted, but you could then continue going if you want, but it's now interrupted. So like there's like a judge's table basically, and they start roasting you as you're talking, and like they'll either let you finish or interview you about your jokes as you're doing them. Like, how do you think that went? Like, and whilst you're sort of on stage still. So that was a pretty cool, like, interesting thing. I think shows like that kind of give comedians a bit more of a shell. It's like these are the sorts of shows that really establish like whether you've got the not balls because there's a lot of female comedians who are very good, but like kind of got like what it takes to kind of answer heckles and like be kind of roasted as you're going. And there were a lot of shows like that, and they were all sign-ups on the night and stuff too, but there was some clearly established comics going through there as well. Like Ty Rivera did one of the shows that I was on, and he's like a judge on Kill Tony a fair bit. And he was doing these like roast random shows here and there and signing up to stuff. But I think other than that, a lot of it is the types of shows, like the mics and stuff, encouraging comics to stay. It's a hard one because I think it works for Americans maybe a little more to like be like, if you're going to do the show, these are what, like, you agree that you'll stay for half an hour and watch. You have to stay for the other comics if you can. Like, it's a nice thing to do. Whereas I know with this scene, and I get it, we only have a smaller window of time that we run shows in. They run them all night until 2 a.m. Yeah. So, like, if you're doing other rooms here, you've got half an hour of a window between your opening for one and then getting on the second half of another. Yeah. And usually it's like across town, or one's in West End and one's in the Valley or whatever, Paddington. So you're kind of like on a window. So once you're done, you're done. You're not going to stick around and watch all the other comics. So if you've got a show that's driven by comedians being there as your audience, or half your audience at least, you have to find a way of keeping them there and wanting to be there and kind of sticking around. And whether that's like the hang, or because there was a hang at most of the shows as well, like people kind of hung out and just chatted, which I think Good Chat has a bit of a hang. Sit Down has a sort of green room hang as well. There are a few, but I think that's a big part of it, is like finding a way to encourage people, and whether that would even work here. But that's what I'd want to, I guess, find out. Like, if people will stick around and watch the open mic that they signed up for. Yep. I guess you've guaranteed that they're there after signing up, maybe. But then after they're done, do they leave? And then the last open mic is left with 2 people.
Yeah. That's... Yeah, I feel like it's tricky, like, when you're... Because it's great, obviously, to be a part of the crowd, encourage, like,
for sure,
other comics, but I think it's tricky once you're like doing multiple mics.
100%. Yeah.
Mics a week, it's just
definitely
like,
you don't have the time. I mean, most people have another job. as well. Like comedy, especially if you're just establishing yourself, even if you are paid and you're 2, 3 years, 4 years in, yeah, you're used to it also. I've seen all the acts too. It's like I'm watching people I've seen 20 times at other shows do a similar act or try new material or whatever. But it's like, yeah, I worked all day. I did this gig. I've got another gig to go to. And then I want to go home.
I still have to wake up, like, I have to be at work at like 7:30 or something.
Yeah. And it's like... I do get that, and that's why it's hard. Like, I don't want to ask that of people. As someone who's, like, expecting a baby, I'm not going to be hanging around after shows that I'm just doing a spot on kind of thing as much, because I need to be home with my kid, and people have lives. So that is the hard part of it. It's like, in their scene, there are 200 comics signing up for all these shows and being around, so there will be people. But here... it's a different kind of scene. So how you'd establish it, I'm not entirely sure. I would like to run a show similar to Kill Tony, but with obviously differences and to make it a different type of show. But I do like that sort of idea too, because it's good to get new people in. And then Kill Tony, what it does is like you might have a bad minute, but then a great interview. Like you might actually have the personality for comedy, but you've not quite nailed the writing and the crowd interaction or whatever.
Yeah, because there's been some bad interviews and I'm like, but the person had a good set and I've kind of forgot they had a good set because they kind of, the interview's like kind of bad.
Yeah, and then Tony's like, okay, well, here's a little joke book.
Yeah, he's like, you're a glass of water or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. Well, this has been boring.
Yeah. But then the other way around, it's like they've had a bad set, but I've forgotten they've had a bad set because the interview is so good.
Because they've got a good personality or like an interesting story that actually would have been a better set. But then usually, and that's the thing is like they usually get advice, like the judges and stuff. Some of them, they get roasted, but sometimes it's like you need to talk more about that, like that thing you just talked about, like make that your set, and then they go home and learn something. Cut that
shorter and do this. And,
and I think that's cool to get like live feedback from good comics, like a show where you bring on bigger comics to kind of out loud judge in a way. But I think like roast a little bit. I'm pretty big on not crushing hopes and dreams. Like I don't want the thing I would change if I were to do a similar type of show would be that I wouldn't discourage, like I don't want to discourage people from doing it. I mean, some people shouldn't do comedy, we know that, and that's not even like we know that, right? There's someone we know shouldn't be doing comedy. I wouldn't be able to name you one off the top, but there are people that like it's just not for them, and usually they'll figure that out themselves. But I certainly don't want to be the one being like never do comedy again. But other than that, like a roasting about your haircut or shoes, as Jack likes to do, it's like that's a fair sort of thing. But I just think like the growing of the scene, I think is important, and we do have stages here where we've done that in Brisbane. So it'd be cool to have that. The other thing, like mothership wise, specifically that room, so like less the scene, that room is like, and with millions of dollars built for comedy specifically, like the acoustics, the sound, the like build up with music and everything is like so precisely done to like set a tone, and that's pretty cool. But you also can't have your phone in there. You have to like lock it away in one of those bags, which was really interesting because a lot of trans jokes, like a lot of jokes that you would not put on social media, for example, or certainly you wouldn't put the unfinished version on social media where people can take a clip and then out of context say you said this thing. So it was really interesting that there were like no holds barred in a show where they're not allowed phones and things, which would be interesting here, but I don't know that we'd ever do that.
I think because I know like some like entertainment center shows like do the make you like won't allow phones in as well. I think too. So
I saw Dave Chappelle here in the entertainment. I think it was the entertainment center, and he had you had to put your phone in a wallet thing, and only they could unlock it for you when you left, which was interesting. But again, like the show that I saw is pretty much the Netflix special he just released. Like a lot of the jokes are the same, and I'm guessing he was working them out. So like someone recording that, and then Dave Chappelle said this. It's like I get it.
Yeah, and then but it's also like take away like the cancellation or the the context side of things too, like things being out of context. You're also like someone is like burning your material for 100%, you, and you don't even have the control of being like, okay, I'm gonna now put this material out there and burn it.
Yeah.
Someone's just done it for you without even...
Yeah, literally. I literally did a show the other day where a friend of mine was like, oh, dude, I recorded it and sent it to such and such. And I was like, oh, okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Can you not do that? Because that wasn't finished. But it's like, yeah, 100% I think it is weird to record and then post, especially if you're famous. Like, people will post a whole set and be like, saw this person at this place. And it's like, yeah, they weren't... that wasn't what they expected you to do. It also takes you out of the moment. Like, part of like having your phone locked away and not accessible means that I'm not looking at my phone for an hour and I'm actually watching the whole show. It's like going to a concert now and seeing a sea of phones just up in the air. Like, it's like 1,000 phones and lights instead of people being like, holy shit, that band's in front of me. It's like, how can I show my followers that band was in front of me? It's like, takes you out of what you're watching as well. So it's kind of good in that sense. Like, you're not, like with Kill Tony, they had the phone lock thing as well. And it's like, now I'm just watching the show. I have nothing to distract me other than leaving this room. But yeah, it is good. I don't know if we'd ever be, like, I'd be surprised if you could do that in smaller rooms here.
Yeah, I think there'd be too much discourse.
Yeah.
There'd be too much like, nah, fuck you. Yeah, especially if you're running in rooms, I feel like your main priority is like wanting people to come back.
For sure.
And I feel like there's too much of a risk there if you're kind of putting in boundaries and rules for the audience. Yeah.
That's another thing I don't think would work here if you told people there was a minimum of drinks they could order.
Yeah, I feel
no.
I feel like they're kind of doing it without asking them half the time.
Yeah, I suppose. That's Australians also just like to drink. So
I think that's kind of
to convince someone to get 2 beers.
Yeah, I think our way of the 2 minimum is like kind of forcing the break.
Yes.
Like having a break in the middle so like the bar can get some activity.
Which they do. That throws off Americans here. We have a break. They're like, oh, you have breaks between your shows there, which is so weird. And I explained it, and they're like, oh, yeah, see, our waitresses just come out the whole time. So there's no reason for you to get up.
Yeah.
Because they're coming to you. But then that distracts from the show. I actually prefer the break.
Yeah.
If you've got a good MC.
Yeah.
That's a big...
Yeah. If it's like a comedy club, ticketed... breaks aren't an issue. It's when it's like the free shows where, you know, like the surprise shows.
And you know half the crowd's going to leave.
Yeah, they're going to... It's when there's a chance of them leaving. When they don't have any
We might not have a break.
I've definitely been a few gigs where like, we're not going to have a break.
For sure.
Like, we need to... We can't afford to lose anyone right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I've even said that as the MC. Like, I wouldn't recommend having a break for this.
Yeah.
Just keep it rolling, especially on an open mic, because that is like, there's not... And are you ready for the headline act? It's like, are you ready for the last open mic act? The last sign-up. It's it does make a point of difference. But... yeah, I thought there's a lot to like do in Brisbane. I think also community is the biggest part. What I did notice in Texas specifically is that all the rooms work together, which we go through stages of in Brisbane. Like, there was a point where I was working with both Sit Down and Good Chat on various things, and Chloe's room, Don't Choke, at the time they started Greaser, and then Finbar took over Greaser when Chloe left. But then I was working with Finbar, and we were like booking each other people. So if someone was interstate, it's like, hey, this person's coming. Do you have a spot? And do you? And then that kind of built a scene around shows and shows crowd members that there are multiple venues. But that's another thing I guess that would be worth. I think we'll do it eventually again, like build more of a scene here, but it goes through waves.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Do you think the America trip has kind of changed? Like, do you think it's helped you as a comedian? Do you think this has kind of put you in a different, I don't know, trajectory maybe?
Probably. I guess it depends. It's kind of up to me what I do with it now to some extent. And it's an interesting time because obviously I am having a baby, so I'll probably take a break for about a month. But I've pretty much just said like I'll do paid gigs for the time being and then go back to also just doing shows and working out material. But I think, it's definitely like, I guess it like shows me as more serious as a comic to some extent. I mean, it's like, you've probably seen it, but now my Instagram profile is like the Laugh Factory background, and it's like, I don't even want to do stuff like that, to be honest, to be like, look at me, I did the Laugh Factory. But it's also like, that's how you grow, and it's like, that's become synonymous with people who are starting to get trajectory, I guess. So to that extent, yes, I guess it like makes me look like I am an established comic. But then otherwise, yeah, I guess it also just was perspective of like what's possible to achieve over there. Like, I personally don't think I could live in America. Maybe if I had to pick, it would probably be Austin if it was to do comedy or something like that. But that's just because there just seems to be more of a scene. But I just, I think it's like once you sort of go in those circles and meet those people, it's like, oh, this is much more possible than I thought it was. After sort of meeting people and them saying, oh, I did this, this, and this. It's like, oh, okay. Like, so you could go out there and make it if you really wanted to. I think there's like, it kind of opened my eyes to how small the gap is between our scene and LA's scene. They're also very welcoming just as a whole. And that, like I said, I was lucky with Adam sort of introducing me to people and things, but I also went to a number of shows on my own as a comic. And they're like even just saying I'm a comic when people are talking to you kind of thing, and they're like, oh, awesome, a comic, and then they want to talk to Brisbane people, so it's like, oh, you should do this show and meet that person and this. And so I guess like the networking side of things, it kind of opened my eyes to a hell of a lot more. And then other than that, I have like, I mean, it just started getting me to do more on socials. I've neglected socials a little bit. I used to do it to run a room. Like I would promote my shows, and obviously as an MC, I would say what shows I was MCing and all that, and do funny videos here and there, but I never really focused on it. And then recently, because a lot of people were saying to get on TikTok and Reels and all that, and I've avoided TikTok so much recently, but like up until now, but because of the advice I got from people in America where they're like, this will help you kind of really grow your crowd. I started doing those like Woolworths customer service videos. I don't know if you've seen those, but then they like popped off randomly as well. Like this week, one of them went from like 20,000 views or something to like 150 something thousand views, and it's like, oh, that's like out of nowhere and on something that's not stand-up comedy, or really anything to do with what I do on stage. But I think it just brings people to you.
Yeah, I think it's good to build stuff with outside of just uploading comedy clips.
I think you only appeal to a stand-up comedy crowd if you're just doing stand-up comedy clips. So the algorithms will be playing to people who watch stand-up comedy. But if you're doing something that's just like a character, like Mel Buttle really blew up with TikTok, and she was already on TV, but she like doubled or tripled her following from those mum videos that she does. And it's just like not what she's like on stage, which is the only downfall, which she said to me was that they do get a TikTok crowd sometimes, and that's the only thing that you're like, I'm not the same person that I am in the videos you like me in. But that's the only thing I guess you have to work out eventually. But yeah, I suppose I learned stuff about that in America too, like people being like, jump on these, do more of this content, film stuff whenever, write stuff whenever. I guess it just spurred me on, if anything, to achieve more. So good in that sense, for sure.
Yeah, cool.
But yeah. And then I guess like now I can be like, I'm a paid comic, I guess, more. Because it's like, you know, it's a bit different, I guess, once you come back from LA, and it's like, because I got to do cool rooms and then be like, I've done these rooms, they're like, okay, that's a paid comic kind of thing more frequently. Even when you're a paid comic to begin with, you're both paid and unpaid, I think, for like a year or two at least. But now you can be like, I think I could pick, like the ones I don't want to get paid on or stuff, I will try and write new material and try new things, and it will be when I'm trying to establish new stuff. And then it's like something in it for me is to be able to not have the pressure of being paid and therefore having to kill. Like you can just be like, oh, I'll do some shows and ask if I can have a spot just to work stuff out. So I guess it gives you more control of what you want to be doing and that sort of thing. Interesting though.
Yeah, for sure. I guess from here I was going to ask like what's next, but I guess the dad life is
pretty much. I'll definitely not dipping out or anything like that. I don't plan on taking a long break or anything. To be honest, it sounds like an insane thing to say. I think new dads might be like, you'll see if you want to go ahead with that once you have a baby. But I actually think one of the ways of maintaining my I guess like stage time and that sort of thing would be running a show or starting to run shows again in the new year. So probably something like that would be next comedy wise. It'll be like after I've taken like a month off at least for sort of, that baby life. But once we sort of get back into a routine and know what we're doing, I'll probably start running shows to at least have more stage time and also establish more stuff in the scene. And then, just doing spots at the other places. I'll be in Brisbane for a bit and then see where it goes from there, I would say. I do want to do an hour. There's a lot of comics who have done comedy for less time than me that have half hours or split bill shows and stuff like that. And I've never done that. I've never been like, come to my show and see me yet. So that's probably on the cards as well. But I'm thinking like closer to the end of the year.
Yeah. And at least you'd be able to do it, if you wanted to, you'd be able to do it under like the Crack Up banner.
For sure. Well. Yeah, I think there's definitely potential there. I've thought about doing like touring and stuff. There's like, you can make good money touring through Queensland. It's just a matter of whether you want to get on the road and like try and sell shows. But
regional Queensland, especially like up north, if you market it well, like I know comics that have made quite a bit of money just through like, and they're also like just great crowds. They
they're up for it.
Like, you're not competing with any other kind of, like, comedy shows or much else.
For sure.
Like, that night in that town.
Yeah, they're excited just to have something there half the time, which is cool. I mean, it's definitely, I think it's an avenue for comics to explore if they do want to, like, either make money in comedy for one, but also get the stage time and build a crowd. But that might be on the cards. Again, it's like working out what's possible with a baby. Like, I'm going to like, be winging it a little bit as much as you want to be planned. It's like, I don't know. But realistically, it's still a job, So I'll keep working at it and building stuff. It'd be cool to have an hour, but I'm too much of a perfectionist. Like, I've probably got like 30 minutes that I'm like, I'd do all of that from start to finish and be happy with it. But there's like so much more that I want to do before I'm like, this is ready for me to sell a show that's me as the show. It's a lot easier to just do other people's shows.
Yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, I'd say that's next. Maybe see what happens on TikTok. I don't know. I'll keep doing those videos and see if anything happens from that. Get a Woolworths hating crowd. I'm not sure.
Yeah, because you've been pretending to be like customer service, right?
Yeah. It's funny. I did that years ago. I made that page. I made it in like 2017. I just did it on Facebook just because, if anything, it was because I worked in customer service at the time and it was just like my outlet of being fake customer service and saying what I thought to customers. But it was more like, at the time, it was Karens and stuff, like that type of mentality that I was calling out, like people that are complaining for the sake of complaining. And I'd be like, hi, Karen or whatever, like, here's what I think of, like, blah blah blah, and it would be like a joke.
The account's like customer service agent or something.
Customer service representative, and it's just like a woman with a little head microphone. But sometimes people do answer me too, which I'll have to do more like posts on that. But yeah, I ended up sort of changing the direction, and I just, again, it was more for fun, just started doing it on Woolworths page and then making the person I was actually complaining about Woolworths. It was like, we actually rip people off and this is why. So we figured we can get away with this. So kind regards, thanks for your time.
So you're not really you're not punching down on the person that you're applying to, you're making fun of Woolworths.
Yeah, literally. It's like it's like meant to be self-deprecating to some extent. Like, I'm with them on their complaint and then just giving them the reason for it, and it's like, it's because we want to make so much money that we're doing this, so thanks for your time. But yeah, I mean, and that it got such a weird response, like so many comments, and then people are now saying like, you should do videos on this company and like do it for this person, and it's like kind of cool to get literally given material in a way.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of the perfect time to do the Colts and Woolworths stuff too, with all the price gouging and things like that coming out. Yeah, so
people are over it too. So they are being like, finally someone's saying it, kind of thing. And this is more like a reveal. I don't think anyone who's a TikTok follower will be listening to this, but because it's probably more stand-up driven. But the other side of it is like they keep being like, it'll be interesting to see what Woolworths does, and like Woolworths has already banned me, but I have so many. Like I went through and just like did so many comments that I've got like maybe 30 screenshots that I can do as videos, but they actually banned me like a couple of days into me doing it, they saw what I was doing, and that like I can't comment now. I don't know whether I can make a new page. We'll see. But now I have to like. It's kind of good that people are being like, do it with this company, because then I'll do it. Like I can move to other pages and stuff. Like I get Qantas a lot. People want me to do, which I think would be a pretty easy one.
That'd be heaps of, because at least like if you start going to like. Because you could probably apply the stuff you'd say to Qantas or
for sure.
Especially Jetstar to like Virgin. Like I feel like it's like quite like a broad.
For
like
sure.
None of them.
Telstra is a big one.
Yeah, Telstra's a big one. Then you can apply it to Optus because like it's not like it's like, oh, this is a good guy. They're all shit.
I want to do it to Coles. Like obviously that's when I get two people like, you should do Coles as well, but they don't post anything, so people don't have anything to comment on.
Oh,
so like their Facebook page is like dead quiet and has been from like 2021. Whereas like Woolworths, they post like how to do a roast chicken that we get.
Yeah,
and people are like, stop talking about roast chickens, you're ripping people off.
Are there any like, there might be like posts on like Coles wall and stuff complaining?
I don't think they show them. I've had a look a few times, like, and I look for every now and then they post something. They did do a New Year's post, like Happy New Year from Coles or something. So there's bits and pieces, but not many people complaining. It's like, because it's like the nice time of year where they're like, Happy New Year, everyone. So I have to find somebody who's like disgruntled at them, but I'll get there. I'm sure they'll start posting, and then we'll see how long I get banned from that. But it's an interesting growth as well. Like there's so many people like now just like my Instagram page gets views from that, and then it's like hopefully I'll start, you know, spruiking a show when I actually put one together, a full one.
Well, with that, where can people find you?
Probably the socials would be the best one. On Instagram, I'm probably the most, I guess, active, and I guess TikTok. Both of those are at clearly an influencer. Yep. I don't know why I've kept that handle, but I started that originally because I was acting like an influencer, like people that are like sort of fake influencers.
Yeah.
And I guess I just kept the tag, and I've never done that character for like 4 or 5 years. But
I always
clearly
wondered
an influencer.
what that. Yeah, I was always like, oh, that's an interesting.
Yeah,
name,
I think the funny thing is I've kept it because comics and people have been like, oh, that's a funny tag.
It is a good
funny
name
or handle or whatever, because most people have a number or their name, so that it's unique enough to not be like, you know, clearly an influencer 12 is like weirder.
Yeah.
Like it wouldn't make sense for me to keep that, but if it's like one thing, it works. But I don't know, I might change it eventually. But yes, clearly an influencer. And then that's pretty much it. crackup.com.au, but that's I haven't done much there yet, so we'll see.
No worries. Well, thanks for coming on.
No worries. Thank you for having me.